Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at a game called ScandalOh, which is actually about to be released on Kickstarter this month in September. This is a deduction game for 1 to 6 players that takes around an hour to play, published by Megacorpin. So Megacorpin were kind enough to send me a prototype version to give you the heads up that this is about to be released. Now, if you can see from the box here, this has the brilliant deck system logo on it, which is, you might recognise from a game called Awkward Guests that came out a couple of years ago. This one is another deduction game that, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you might be aware is one of my favourite games and certainly my favourite deduction game of all time. So ScandalOh is almost the sequel to that game, but I would more kind of describe it as a sidestep. There's a lot of similarities here and a lot of shared DNA with very small differences between the two. I suppose the biggest being the theme. So in Awkward Guests, you've got the kind of trope of a deduction game being a murder mystery, whereas in ScandalOh, you are trying to reveal a kind of a celebrity or a political scandal where you are an investigator, basically, or a journalist. So the game is going to look like this, where you have your big sheet here, where you're going to be taking things off, trying to work out what the scandal is, who the celebrities involved are, and which newspaper are willing to publish that story. And the way you're going to get this information is by using cards. So, as I mentioned, this brilliant deck system is just that. I mean, this is one of the most amazing systems I've ever seen, and probably one of the most genius and innovative just methods of introducing fresh gameplay and a way that you can just inject life into games, because this system actually allows you to play games again and again and again without ever getting the same kind of case twice. So what that basically means is you're going to, out of a massive deck of cards here, you've got a big set here, you're going to pull out a certain amount and put them into a deck, shuffle them up, and then you're going to deal cards out. And all that means is that with this particular setup, somewhere in this deck, or kind of by going through this deck, you are going to work out what the answer is going to be by, again, deducing what these answers could be. So when you've got your set of cards here, you're going to be ticking off all the relevant things from your sheet, which will say things, like what celebrities are not involved in, which stories the papers are or not willing to publish, which celebrities are involved, and so on. And you've got different kind of numbers here in the top left-hand corner, which is almost the how relevant or how strong that information is. So one of the main differences between this and Awkward Guests are that in ScandalOh, you've only got cards worth 1 or 2, whereas in Awkward Guests, you had going up to 3. So you had really strong information, which, of course, you want to keep for yourself, but you want to stop your opponents from having. And that's kind of one of the key decisions in this game, is what information you are willing to exchange with your opponent. So on a player's turn, after you've drawn all your cards and ticked off your sheet accordingly, you are going to go to this board here, and then you're going to pick some different categories on the information you want to find out. So you can pick information relating to locations, which have kind of an umbrella of different information below them. You've got the celebrities, you've got the papers, and you've got the kind of sub-celebrities here, which are correlating to this network chain, which are trying to connect the roots off and stuff to work out who or who not could possibly be involved in this scandal. But once you've done that, your opponents are going to kind of volunteer an amount of information. So let's say, for example, I wanted to find information about the gardens, for example. My opponent might say, I've got 2 information on the gardens, and I could either say, yeah, I'll take that information, or I'm not interested in it. But if I was to take that information, I'll not only get their card, but I'd have to give back an equal amount of information, either by a single 2 card or maybe 2 level 1 cards. And that's going to be basically the flow of information. Again, keeping key information close to your chest and stopping your opponents getting those little nuggets, and but still trying to extract information out of them, because you want to be the first to crack this puzzle. So needless to say, I really enjoy this game because it is so similar to Awkward Guests. It really is a matter of splitting hairs and which theme you prefer. Do you want the more logical and probably more familiar theme of Awkward Guests, where I think things are going to be a bit more understandable and a bit more just a bit more intuitive? Or do you want that fresh approach and try something a bit different and maybe take a break from that normal murder mystery scene and go for something a little bit different here, but bearing in mind that maybe things aren't going to click as quickly as they would with a game like Awkward Guests. The actual deduction is pretty similar to Awkward Guests as well. I would say this one has a slightly more complex level to it in terms of this chaining mechanism here, or cutting off these links, etc. But all in all, it is just a matter of preference in which theme you would prefer. And yeah, so it's really isn't a game I can really criticise, because it's pretty much the same game as Awkward Guests with some very minor differences. It still kind of keeps that artwork that Megacorpin are quite known for, this kind of grotesque cartoony theme with these really weird characters. But I like that, it certainly has its own brand, and the sheets and things are really logical, and you can work out what they are, tick things off, and they're nice and big here. I will say this is a prototype version, but I believe that everything here is pretty much going to be almost like what the retail version is going to be like, obviously with the exception of the actual card quality, etc. And I think the box shape is going to be a bit different as well, but I'm just being pedantic. The actual, everything is well produced here, everything looks good, and the actual player screens themselves are really good, where you've got a lot of information on here, and it holds all the information you'll need throughout the game. So yeah, naturally, I will definitely recommend checking out ScandalOh if it is your cup of tea, if you do like your deduction games, and again, you want a new, fresh theme, and I really do welcome when publishers try something different, and just give a different approach to kind of familiar mechanisms. While deduction is is so used and kind of exploited, I think Megacorpin did a great job of introducing this system and still have some ground to exploit with that brilliant deck system. And ScandalOh is just the next step of that. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who enjoy this one. And if you couldn't get your hands on Awkward Guests, or as I said, maybe you're tired of that murder mystery theme, then definitely give ScandalOh a look. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this preview. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.